8 weeks. When we last spoke, I did say, what advice, you asked me what advice was I giving the companies at the time. And my advice was hurry up and wait and be prepared to act quickly. Now, I don't like to say that I'm always right, but in this instance, I actually was right. It was if you'd made a decision on any given day over the last 8 weeks, there's a fair chance that you would have to have rolled back that decision nearly immediately. And so, from a supply chain perspective, this ongoing turmoil is interesting and it is challenging in terms of what is going to happen next. And right up until Friday, we even thought it was starting to calm down a little bit. We thought there's negotiations happening with China, and then suddenly steel and aluminium come back on the agenda on a speech from the president on Friday evening and doubling the tariffs on those.
And I watched our conversation back from early April, and you were right on a bunch of things. So, A, give yourself a pat on the back. But B, your advice was hurry up and wait, but be prepared to act quickly. And I actually wrote that down because I'm curious if that's the advice you would give in light of the court rulings regarding the tariffs. Because last week, the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled against President Trump's tariffs. They called them unlawful. He exceeded his authority in doing that. And less than 24 hours later, an appeals court ruled that the tariffs can stay in effect for now. So what's your advice to the business community? Hurry up and wait, but be prepared to act quickly. What does that look like?
My advice has not changed because I think that this is still such a complex set of activities that have to happen. I do not doubt that the White House are working, very very quickly to try and sign agreements, trade agreements with a lot of countries around the world. But we haven't really seen a lot of progress. We hear a lot about the conversations, but we haven't seen real factual progress. That has to happen. The 90 days that the president initially talked about, we're getting close to the end of that 90 days. Listening to the commentary from Besant and from Lutnick, they're saying, okay, we're in these negotiations, but I read an article this morning which said that to a certain extent, a lot of what happens next depends on what is agreed with China. And that's an interesting perspective because it means, it's not just supply chains are saying hurry up and wait. The global economy is to a certain extent saying, let's see what happens with China, and that may well set the precedent for what happens with everybody